What's up, everybody? So on today's vlog, what we're going to work on is attaching the handle scales onto this knife right here. Now, I want to clarify a little bit of info about the knife. For one, it's 1095 steel. I was planning on clarifying that on yesterday's vlog, but then I decided to forget about it and not clarify it. So today, we're clarifying it. 1095 steel. And then when it comes to the actual mustard etch itself, I left it for 1 hour per side. So I, squirted the mustard on there, did the lines, and then let it sit for 1 hour, then cleaned it, and then applied it to the other side. I will tell you a little bit of advice. Tape off everything that you do not want etched, just like you would normally think about it. Whenever I first did the main side, which was this side, I let the mustard hang over the edge here, and what it ended up doing was it etched this whole entire back side all the way around, and I had to get the surfacing belt and take all of that off and get it smooth again. So tape the back side that you're not planning on etching at that time, and the ricasso if you don't want to etch that. A lot of people do etch the ricasso when they do it, but I wanted this nice defined area, partially because that's where I plan on putting my maker's mark. But it's just a little bit of extra info. 1 hour per side. The longer you leave it on there, the darker it'll get and the more it'll etch. So there you go, 1095 steel and a little bit of clarity on the mustard etch. Now, when it comes to the handle scales on this, I've been debating on which ones I was going to go with. So I had two different options here. These right here. So this is a stabilized box elder with that yellow. And then this is an unknown Australian burl. So you can see it all through here. So I've been debating on which one to go with, and I think I'm going to go with this because I like the darkerness to it. That would just be darkness. It wouldn't be darkerness. Yes. So we're going to go ahead and use these handle scales right here. Now we need to square these because they are not square at all. And we need to actually get rid of some of the stuff that's on the back here. But we're going to go ahead, we're going to work on that today. We're going to get these squared, we're going to get them cut out to the actual handle shape, and then get them attached. Now for the pin material, I've got a couple of different choices here. For one, I am going to be using a brass lanyard tube. But when it comes to the actual 3/16 pins, I'm either going to go with the brass pin or I'm going to go with the black micarta pin. I think that the brass pin would look good on here, but I also think that the black micarta pin would look really cool as well. And then just doing the brass lanyard tube, we're gonna see how it goes. Whenever I actually decide to start putting the pin material in, that's when I'll decide what I'm gonna do on this. So you'll see how it goes whenever we actually get to that point. I don't know yet, but let's try it out. Let's jump into it. So I decided we're gonna go ahead and do a voiceover on this one. Now, what we're going to start off with is squaring off those scales. They were pretty square where they met, but the outer sides of them were at angles. And I like to start with 100% square scales from the get-go. So I'm going to square everything, not just the parts where they touch, but the back sides, all of that stuff, so that whenever you go to start marking things and getting ready to do your pins, all of that stuff is straight and square, so that the pins are perfectly perpendicular to the center of the scales where they meet the knife. What that ends up doing is it makes it to where your pins are going to go through there straight and not at an angle whenever you go to use your drill press to drill through them. So you want everything square. And then I'm just squaring off the edges. I already squared the fronts and backs. And again, you just want to start with as true as scales as you can do when it comes to them being square as possible, because your end result is way better. Now, this is something I don't really show y'all, but after I do handle scales or do something that's super dusty, I go through and I vacuum everything. Just because I like to do each step without there being a huge mess everywhere. I wouldn't say that I'm OCD, but I like a clean workshop, and this is just one of my processes that I do. Each time I go through and do something that's messy, I vacuum everything so that I'm not compounding mess on top of mess. But this gives you an idea of what that looks like each time I do it. Now it's time to get these scales put together so that I can start doing a few of the next steps. So all I'm going to do is take a piece of tape and rest the scales on there nice and square. And this will actually keep them together and even for most of what I need to do next. It's a pretty simple process. It's a little bit easier than taping with the double-sided tape on the center, because whenever you have to pull those apart, they're not easy. This is really easy to maintain and easy to take off whenever you're done with it. Now we're going to start marking off where the handle is going to sit on the scales. And at first I was going to bring the spine up as high as possible, but I didn't like how much ricasso was going to be left. So I decided to go ahead and angle it and pull it back a little bit so that I had as much handle scale on there as I wanted, and then I would have the ricasso where I wanted it to be. But something super simple like this, it helps you figure out what you're going to do in the end. And you can see right here, whenever I take the scales and kind of get them where I want them, I'm going to clamp them down with the two front holes exposed so you can drill through it. You want to do this because it keeps it from shifting whenever you start drilling your first couple of holes. So we go through here with the 3/16 drill bit and just get the first hole set. I'm going to use the drill bits for this one instead of doing the pins, but we did drill bits in the first two. We're going to do a pin in the third one, and then we're going to do our 1/4 inch bit there. Now it's time to go ahead and get them cut out, and I'm going to cut all the way on this line because I want to cut as much of the excess as possible off so that I don't have to sit there and use my belt grinder to shave all the wood back. You do want to be careful whenever you're doing this because you don't want to cut off too much, and especially whenever you have more than one line on there, you could get confused and accidentally cut the wrong line, and then you just waste a set of handle scales. So just be patient and don't rush through things. Now we're going to go ahead and focus on the front of the scales where they meet the ricasso, and we need to get this shaped how we want it, smoothed out, rounded, and profiled, because you can't really mess with this stuff once you get it glued to the knife itself. If you try and mess with it after that, you're going to end up scratching up your blade in the ricasso area, and you don't want to do that. So do all your prep work and everything beforehand. Now I did decide to go ahead and, while I'm doing this part, to create that pinch area on the handle scales like you would have on a chef's knife. So I'm coming back at a pretty steep angle, and I am shaving as much wood off as I can because I don't want to have to try and do this part whenever it's on the knife. It's a lot easier to do it right here than do some hand sanding and be done with it, so that all I have to focus on is contouring. And when it comes to hand sanding, we're just using 500 grit and then 800 grit, and we're going to leave it at an 800 grit finish. And I did go back and sand those areas where that pinch area is. I did end up sanding that way. That stuff was already pre-sanded, and I didn't have to focus again on that once the scales were glued to the knife. This is going to turn out beautiful. I really like these scales. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to mix our 5-minute epoxy. And on this one, I'm pretty much going to focus on just putting the epoxy on the scales and then inside the extra little holes that we have in there. I'm not going to be putting really any epoxy on the steel itself, because I really want to minimize the amount of squeeze out that we're going to have. And we do put a little bit of epoxy on the pins whenever we push them through. It just helps make sure that there's epoxy everywhere where there needs to be epoxy. And then we're just putting a little bit of epoxy in those holes that I have right there, just for a better mechanical bond. And then I like to adjust the pins to make sure that we have plenty of exposed pin on either side. Just makes it a lot better than forgetting about it and missing that step, and then you have a pin that's not all the way through and it messes up your process and your handle scales. And then we're just putting enough pressure on these to just get the bond right. We're not squeezing them too tight. Alright guys, let's go ahead and wrap up today's vlog. Now, this is just coming together so nicely and it's just looking so beautiful. I still love the finish on this blade. And then of course the handle scales are going to look sick whenever they're said and done. Now I did go ahead and profile the pinch area right here, you know, before attaching the handle scales, just because it comes so close to the blade that I didn't want to try and do that after the handle scales were on the blade and risk scratching the blade or doing something like that. But I really love how this is turning out. I think this pinch area is going to be perfect because it's that chef's knife pinch area that we have right there. And then we're going to do a real cool contour on the handle scales. I don't exactly know what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to, again, just not so much wing it, but I'm going to profile it to what feels good in the hand. I don't have a super huge plan going into it. I'm just going to start profiling, see where it goes, and then let it be what it is. So that's what we're going to do on the next vlog for this. Now, of course, tomorrow is going to be a Shop Talk Tuesday, but after that, we're going to have the contouring of this. And I will tell y'all, if y'all don't watch the Shop Talk Tuesdays, y'all should definitely jump over there and do that, because I talk about tons of stuff that are like knife related and just answering y'all's questions and comments and different things that y'all talk about in the YouTube comment section, the Facebook group, through my emails, all that stuff. I just address a lot of things that y'all are interested in and y'all have questions about in those videos, so definitely go check those out. But guys, after that Shop Talk Tuesday, we will have another video shaping these scales. I don't plan on going back to daily vlogging, but I do plan on vlogging as much as possible. I probably will put out a vlog almost every day this week, and then of course going into the next build we're going to be doing that. Plus we are going to be, you can't really see them back in the background, but we are going to be doing the sheaths for the chunky Tonto chunky file knives. And guys, that's the end of this one. If y'all would give this video a thumbs up, share this video or one of my other videos that I've done, and guys, don't forget about it, hit that subscribe button right there so you get notified of all the stuff that we have coming up. And just thank y'all for coming by. Thank y'all for spending your time with me. Y'all have an amazing day. Y'all stay safe out there. And I'll catch y'all next time.